Right, it's time to build Pacman, so we're going to return to the Paint a New Sprite button, the star and the paintbrush icon there. If we give that a click and bring up our paint editor again, I'm just going to create a traditional Pacman character here, but you can create any kind of artwork you like. It doesn't have to look like Pacman initially. So I'm going to stretch the circle out there, and I'm going to use this straight line tool, and the checkered box you see in the bottom of the colour palette creates a transparent area, so I'm drawing a transparent line there, and if I fill in that segment with the transparency as well, that in effect deletes it. You just get a nice straight edge when you delete that. I'm just going to add an eye for Pacman here as well, and that'll be about it. I'll press OK. And that adds him to our game, and just like before, we're going to need to resize him again. So again, right click him, choose resize this sprite, and use the little arrow to drag it so he again fits inside that central square, so he'll fit through all the pathways. Okay, next thing we're going to look at is controlling Pacman. Pacman's controlled in a different way to the baddies. We're going to use the arrow keys to have control over Pacman. So we're finished with the coordinates now. That was just for the baddie characters. So to start off, we're just going to program one key initially, and we're going to take one of the flag blocks there, and we're going to add to it another block in the control section that's called forever if, and these are conditional statement blocks. They have these little hexagon spaces in which there are blocks in the sensing category which click into there quite nicely. There's different kinds of blocks, but we're going to choose this one here that says if the key space is pressed, and we're going to change the space key to say we'll do the right arrow key first here. So that now says when the flag is clicked, if the right arrow key is pressed, and in that space we're going to tell it what's going to happen when that arrow key is pressed. Changing X, which is this block I've just added there, is changing his side-to-side position. Changing it by 5 will make it go to the right, and you can see he's moving there. But I've got a problem, he's going through the walls at the moment. So to stop that happening, we're going to go back to Control and add in an if block. That's again another conditional block, and again we've got that little hexagon space. We're going to return to sensing and tell the computer that if we're touching a certain colour we want it to stop. So it's pink at the moment, but if you click the coloured square it'll give you a coloured picker. Go over and click on the colour of your walls and you can see it's replaced the pink with that sort of turquoisey colour. So now when the flag is clicked, if we press the right arrow key, change X by 5, but if we're touching that colour, we're going to tell it to change X by -5. So while we're pressing the right arrow key, the computer will be attempting to move Pacman to the right, but as he's touching the turquoisey colour, it will also be attempting to move him to the left by the same amount, and in effect those two values will cancel each other out and result in no movement at all. So it'll look like the wall stopping him, which you can see is happening there. He's almost just bouncing off it a little bit. So that's just the right arrow key program to work at the moment, and what we're going to need to do is make a similar set of blocks for each of the other keys. So I'm just going to use the stamper tool to duplicate that stack there and just do a couple of quick changes to save me building the whole thing. That one's going to say the left arrow key now, and the only other thing I need to change is the values, the top one being -5 now, and the block to cancel it out will be +5. So that should let the left and the right keys work, and again they're both being stopped by the walls. We need to do that for up and down as well now. I'm going to build these sets from fresh because the X blocks there need to be Y blocks, and rather than fiddle around taking bits out and replacing them, sometimes it's just faster to build them from fresh. So there we go, same blocks, forever if, put a forever, sorry, not a forever block, we need an if block in there. Back to sensing, where we'll put the key pressed block in there again, and we'll put the touching colour bit in while we're here. Switch that one to say the up arrow this time, and again make sure the colour of our walls is in the correct touching colour block there. And then we're going to add in change Y this time, Y being the up and down movement of the character. And for the up arrow, the initial movement needs to be 5, and the if you're touching the walls needs to be again -5. So again, that'll work in the same way as the two previous sets we've built, and I'm just going to duplicate that because it's already using the Y blocks that I need, and make one for the down arrow, and again switch over the numbers, -5 and 5. The most common mistake people make at this point is mixing up those X and Y blocks, which stop him moving properly. And you can see now he can go up, down, he can go left, right, he can move around the maze, moves nice and smoothly. You can hold your finger on the keys to keep him moving in a particular direction. A couple of little things we can just add to improve it. These pointing direction blocks will make him actually flip left and right when he turns left and right. We only need to add those to the left and right arrow key scripts. So this one says pointing direction, and you can actually see up, down, left, right there labelled. So I'll choose left, and the right one is already set on right. And the last thing I'm going to choose is this little icon at the top. The double arrows will stop Pacman flipping upside down when he turns. The top block in that sort of set of 3 has got a curved arrow, and that will let him rotate, but now he can only face left and right, and he's moving around and stopping at the walls. Right, Pacman's moving nicely now with the keys, but you'll have noticed a minute ago that he wasn't colliding with the ghosts, or when he was touching them it was having no effect. So the next thing I'm going to do is what's called collision detection, and that's giving Scratch the ability to recognise when Pacman is touching the ghosts and make something happen. So we're going to build a new block, again with the flag, and again with that forever block, and we're going to use another of those if blocks. And back to the sensing category. I'm going to choose this top one. It's another touching one, just like the touching colour block we used before, but this one gives you the option to select the other sprites in your game. So sprite 1 and sprite 2 are showing up there. That's my ghost characters. I'm just going to choose sprite 1. So when I click the flag forever, if I'm touching that character, I need to now tell it what I want to happen when I touch the ghost. Now initially I'm going to make it return Pacman to the centre of the screen. So I'm going to use one of the go to blocks, so he jumps straight back there instantly without seeing the sort of glide. And I know the centre of the screen is the coordinate 0, 0, so I'll add that in. And anytime he touches the ghost now, he'll jump straight back to the middle of that green square. Now I want some other things to happen as well. In the Game On area, you'll also see a folder of sound effects, which you can download, which are the original Pacman sound effects. I've got mine ready here. So I also want it to make a noise when he collides with a ghost. There's one in there that's called Pacman Dies. So I'm just going to select that and load that in. You have to do it in that order. You have to load the sound first before you can go and use the sound block for it. And you can see the top block there says play sound, and the one I've imported, Pacman Dies, is showing up there in the drop down box. You've got other options of things that happen there, and what I would also like to happen is for Pacman to change his appearance slightly when he crashes into a ghost. I want him to look sad about that fact. So I'm going to go back to his costumes and create a new costume by going in the paint tool again. Oh, it's just stretched a bit too much. I'm going to create a new version of Pacman. This time I'm going to draw him facing me, looking at the camera. Let's give him some eyes. Because he's collided with those ghosts, I'm going to give him a sad face. And then just press OK. So you can see now he has two versions of himself, two different costumes which you can switch between. In the looks category you'll find a block at the top that will do that. Switch to costume, it says there, and we'll drop that into the space as well. And there it is. So I need to choose which costume it goes to when he touches the ghost. Costume 2 was the sad face, so that's the one I'll select there. You can rename costumes, which is what I'm going to do here. It just makes it a little easier to see what you're doing sometimes. So open and sad, I'm going to call these two costumes. And it's important if you do make a change, you remember to just go and change the drop down box there, so that says sad. A couple of other things we're just going to add in. One, we need to make sure he's always on the correct costume at the start of the game, so when the flag is clicked there, I'm just going to add that block at the top that says he switches to his open costume at the beginning of the game. And after he has touched the ghost, I want him to go sad, but I want him to only remain sad for a couple of seconds, so I'll use a wait block for 2 seconds and then go and get another costume block So after that short wait, he returns back to his open mouth costume, and we can continue playing the game and he'll look back to his normal self. So we're about done there with Pacman. We're just going to duplicate that block we've just created and do the only thing I've changed there is sprite 2 in the box, so both collisions with both baddies work in exactly the same way. There you can see jump back to the center square, touching the other baddie does the same thing, and that bit's almost completed now. In the next video we're going to look at adding pack points to your game. That's the dots we collect as we move around, and we'll also add a scoring system to the game.